Hey YouTube, I'm Coach Dragonmar and welcome to a new video. If you're Hardstuck and can't escape your rank, this is the video for you. I'll be teaching you some of the most common reasons players are stuck and how to fix them. Now, most of these things are things that I see and correct daily when I'm actually coaching. So if you're interested in coaching with me, you guys can check out my coaching options on metafy.gg/@Dragonmar. And I'm currently looking for long-term students for the month of September. If that's something you're interested in, just shoot me a DM on Discord and we'll talk about it. If you guys enjoyed these videos, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. And now let's begin. To start the video, we have to kind of talk about what it means to be hard stuck, right? This is kind of a weird phrase. A lot of people misuse this one. I'm talking about being hard stuck. I'm talking about being in a rank, a single rank for acts on act, multiple acts sometimes, so months. If you guys call yourself hard stuck after a week or two of being the same rank, you have no idea what you're talking about, and you got to put things into perspective. Okay, all of this is about people who are stuck in ranks for a long period of time, months on end. That is who this video is targeted towards. However, it's going to help everyone who watches it regardless, because I'm going to be giving you some very good advice here. So to start that advice off, I do want to just say one thing before we get into any tips or anything. It's that consistency is key, right? If there is something you could take away from this video without me going any further, it is that you need to play this game consistently if you want to grow, if you want to become a better player. You could be the best player in the world, but if you're only able to play 1 day a week for 2 hours, you are going to struggle to progress. The best players in the world right now are players who are playing every day, 8 hours a day. They're VOD reviewing, they might be aim training. The game is their life, right? And to some degree, for a lot of us out there who want to become the best player we can be, the game doesn't become our life, but becomes a big part of it, right? And consistency, playing every day, is absolutely vital to that. Making sure that each session you play is multiple hours long as well. You're doing the proper warm-ups. All of that is incredibly vital. So please, if there's anything to take away from this video, it is that you are going to struggle to reach your goals and to get out of your rank if you do not play consistently. All right, so tip number one, if you guys are hard stuck, you need to work on your communication. Okay, this is one of the biggest problems I see at low ranks, and one of the things I hear all the time in coaching is that, well, Dragonmar, what happens if my team doesn't talk to me? I don't care. That's the simple answer. You got to talk to the team, you got to communicate, you got to make call outs. So when your team doesn't talk, there are two things that are happening, right? Either your teammates do not have a microphone. Okay, they can't talk, fine, valid. Or they have one and they're not talking. Okay, that's interesting. But the simple thing here is that most of the time, I'd say about 90% of cases, they can hear you. Let me ask you this. Have you guys ever not talked in the game, but you've heard a teammate make call outs and you react based on that? Yeah, I think we've all been there, right? And the same goes for you. If you can still make call outs, you could still relay valuable information to your team. That is still important, even if they're not talking to you. So I don't want you to think that just because a team is not talking, that is a valid reason for you not to talk, right? That's you giving up, okay? That's a quitter's mindset. I don't like that. You guys have to focus on being the best player you can be, practicing in every game you get into with your communication. And guess what? Most of the time, people are gonna be able to hear you, and maybe they'll type to you if they don't actually, talk through their microphone, right? There's always a reason to do this. This is a big problem that I'm seeing a lot in my coaching sessions. Not enough communication from my students, and hopefully, or I'm expecting a lot of you out there probably could communicate it better. So how do we do this? What can we do? Well, I'm not saying you have to IGL or shot call, right? There's a very big difference between making call outs and becoming the person that comes up with strategies, the in-game leader who's doing all of the shot calling. But what I would like everyone watching this video to do is ask questions to your team. Ask for information. Ask, hey, is there anyone over towards A? Do you hear any footsteps? Do you hear any noise? Should I rotate? Do you need my help? Or if pre-round, you'd be like, hey, do you want to do this push with me? Or, you could be asking your team, hey, do you guys want to hit A here? Do you want to split site? You do not have to command them. You don't have to tell people what to do. Asking questions is such a good way to get your team talking. Not enough people do it. So please, please, please talk regardless, communicate regardless of if your team is talking. Ask questions to your team. Don't demand things of them. You ask nicely, I promise you, your games are going to go so much better. Communication, one of the most underrated skills in the game. Something you will hear a lot of pro players preach about how important it is to talk to your team, how valuable an asset that is to a team. Please, please communicate. And tip number two is going to be about your agent selection and your role, right? This is a common tip. I really have been giving this throughout like Valorant's history, and it's because it's very important to understand. So It's all about changing up what you're playing, changing your main, changing your role. If you guys are stuck truly and you're still playing the same agent that you were playing 5 months ago when you hit the rank you're in, you got to rethink your priorities here, right? One of the things that a lot of people do is they get stuck in their comfort zone, right? They get stuck in a spot where they're like, I'm good at this agent, I understand this agent, but then they stop progressing. And they're like, oh, okay, well, let me try this, let me try that. But they never change up the agent they're playing. I have a lot of people that I coach who I have put on new agents, and they have instantly, over that course of the next week or two, gone up sometimes multiple ranks. Because what people don't understand is that just because you like an agent or that you feel comfortable on them, it doesn't mean you're actually pushing yourself to your limits or that you've hit your limit on your rank, right? Sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone, try new things, expand those horizons, and you'll find that possibly you've been holding yourself back. This is the big one here. Changing your main or changing your role, changing the agents you play is all about expanding those horizons and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. If you are a player listening to this video right now and you're like, man, I've been playing the same agent for a long time and I'm not ranking up anymore, time to change. Okay, so what are kind of some options here? Well, first and foremost, if you are someone who plays like a sentinel or a very support oriented role, hey, time to try a duelist. You know, try a high impact role, try something where you can get in the action faster, right? Test out that aim a bit, see if you really are, you know, meant to play support, or if you can have more impact in different roles. A lot of times the problems people are having, especially with impacting a game, comes from the role they play. Oftentimes far too passive, sometimes way too much of a support player, not enough getting into the action. You guys find yourself retaking a lot of the times it's because your team is you know, dying well before you because of their aggression, but also it could be your positioning. You might be playing too safe. And again, getting out of your comfort zone, push yourself to be a better player. So look for more high impact agents. That's a good idea. Playing more meta agents. Obviously, if you guys watch VCT, you know what the pros play. Just looking at their comps, see if you can play agents like that. Certain maps are good for certain agents. And I'm not saying I want you to match everything up perfectly, but that is something to consider. The most important thing here is that I do not want you guys to be a jack of all trades, master of none. Okay, that is very, very important. I need you to master your role or your agent, okay? And if you feel like you have and you're not ranking up, chances are you haven't, but also chances are you're better off in another role, okay? So very important to look critically at yourself. Do not be stubborn here. Very important to change up what you're playing if you're stuck. I promise you, it is going to help you so much in the long run, even if there are some slight hurdles when you start. Tip number 3 is a massive tip, especially for my duelists, for my chambers out there. It is reduce your first bloods, okay? Or your first deaths, sorry. Increase your first bloods, reduce your first deaths. Listen, guys, this is a very important stat line to look at. When we analyze pro play as well, a lot of the times what we look at is the ratio of first kills to first deaths, okay? First deaths are very, very, very bad, right? We don't want them at all, you know? And I think a big problem here is a lot of this player base is way too kill hungry and way too aggressive. So what happens is in these roles that have like get out of jail free cards, or, you know, they might be like in a duelist role, they're like, oh, okay, I gotta go get kills. Well, hold on a second. That's not all you have to do, right? But they focus their entire identity, how they play their agent, on the fact that I must kill, right? And what happens is they become over aggressive. They take unnecessary fights, make unnecessary peaks. They become predictable in that aggression, and they get completely shut down. You guys have probably all seen this in your games where your duelist at the end of the first half, whether it's like attack or defense, let's just say attack, is like 3 and 12, right? And it's because most likely they were getting shut down early, but they never changed up how they were playing. So a lot of this comes from a lack of discipline, right? First and foremost, if you guys are trying good plays, solid plays, but you're just getting countered, maybe you're missing some shots, the other team's hitting some nice ones, change up how you're playing. You have to have the discipline to do that. You cannot keep on forcing yourself into this brick wall that is the other team. Change it up, talk to your teammates, communicate. Remember how important that is, right? Do not be that stubborn player who just continuously dies first. First bloods are a massive indicator of who is going to win the game. When we look at the win rates that are presented, for example, just again using VCT, you'll see that when there is a first blood for one team, does that team capitalize on it? Most of the time, yes, they do. That's why it's very important, because you're putting your team at a massive disadvantage This leads to unwinnable rounds, right? There's a saying that goes, you don't win a 1v3, the other team loses it, right? They lose a 3v1. It's the truth. You shouldn't be winning these clutch situations. So the first deaths that you're having, this is an important stat to track. If you are like a duelist player, you can use tracker to track it. Very important, because you need to lower that as much as you can while still remaining true to your role, while still taking smart risks, but adapting. So the big thing here is to adapt to what's happening in the game and to stay unpredictable. Okay, do not play the same positions. Change up where you're playing, change the types of aggression, use your teammates, communicate more. And if it's not working, the key here is to have the discipline to stop making the same mistakes. Tip number 4 is actually related to a video that I just made about post plants, right? It's about smarter post plants and retakes. Once that spike goes down, I feel like a few people, and by a few I mean a lot of people, suddenly forget like how to play Valorant. So there's a few things to talk about here, right? Post plants are, you know, roughly going to be about 40 seconds long most of the time, depending on if spike gets diffused or whatever. But most of the time, it's a 40-second window for the most part, right? And within that window, we have to figure out either how we're going to defend that spike that's planted or retake and defuse that spike, right? Now, what are some of the most common mistakes we see here? Well, people rush. People rush everything. Every aspect of a post plant I have seen rushed in some coaching session, in some VOD review, or in a pro match, right? Stop rushing. Slow it down for a second. Think about what you're doing. Yes, it's important to take space, but you don't have to run in head first. You have no idea how many times I have seen a player who is going to like retake some site, maybe a site on Haven, right? They're defending, they're retaking the site. Their team is still coming from C, they're still coming from like garage, they're rotating over. This player doesn't even wait. They just run in for like a 1v3 on site. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? You know, the simple thing here, play off of your teammates. Use that map awareness. Look where your team is before you go in and figure out how to play efficiently. Do you go in 1-by-1? Do you go for a 1v3? Or would you prefer to take a 3v3? I think we know the answer to that. Now, another very important thing about the map. Map is extremely important. Good mini map awareness, extremely important to a post plant. As an attacker, once that spike goes down, identify where all your team is instantly. Where are they? Where can you go? What's safe? What's not safe? Try to take some space if you can. If you can't, play crossfires. Crossfires are massive, okay? The reason I'm giving you guys this tip, by the way, the reason I'm talking about post plants is because this is often where games are won or lost in the problems we see in the post plant phase of the game. And if you could properly retake, you are so much better than so many other players, right? It is such a valuable skill to have, to understand proper retakes. And a lot of this comes down to teamwork, to playing together. Part of this, again, communication. It's coming up again, right? Very important to talk during this. But the key here that I want to say is to be a smarter post plant player, you need to play with your teammates. If you are playing too solo here, my friend, you are part of the problem, okay? Play off your teammates. Stop taking solo peaks. Stop playing 1-by-1. Play smart. Play off your team. That is how you become a better player. You know, as someone with an economics degree, I feel very qualified to talk about tip number 5, which is reducing your force buys and essentially perfecting the economy aspect of the game. So one of the reasons you guys may be hard stuck is you're just buying every round. If you think this doesn't happen, by the way, this does. There are players out there who just do not value their economy enough. So what happens in some degree, especially at the higher ranks where a lot of people are like, oh, I don't do that. What they actually do is they'll buy like a sheriff every round, or they might buy a marshal, or they'll buy, a specter or extra armor when they just don't need to, when a full save is all they need to do. So what happens is their economy gets messed up from their teammates. So when their team is full buying, they're not full buying, right? And suddenly, if the enemy team is able to take advantage of where someone might have less armor or a worse weapon or less utility, well, that's not good, right? And that's why you buy with your team, because you want everyone to be on an equal playing field. You don't want someone to be down for some reason, because then you have to utilize them differently and maybe not to the strength of the agent they're playing, right? It ruins the chances of what we like to call fair rounds, balanced rounds where it's just rifle versus rifle. And what happens is it often leads to bad or essentially wasteful utility usage, especially with ultimates, right? If you guys are on bad guns, a lot of the times the way you use your ult is going to be different. You're not going to follow them up the same. You might not have the right utility because, again, you're not buying properly, so you're never able to full buy with the right util. Again, this is a problem that comes from a lack of discipline. All right. And this lack of discipline, I think, is just people trying to rush through these rounds and essentially force things where they don't need to. Guys, if you lose the pistol, you don't have to force every time. Just wait till round 3, buy your guns. It's about not understanding the flow of the game and the importance of the rounds they're in, right? Everyone wants to win right now, but they're not willing to like do the smart thing, hold out, wait an extra round, get your full guns, and then just win that round, you know, win the bonus, right? So another really bad aspect about essentially force buying is most of the time it's going to leave you with less armor, and very rarely will you ever have full util. And it's a vicious cycle, right? Because the cycle is going to keep repeating itself. You're going to not have enough armor, you're not going to have the right gun, you're not going to have the right abilities in the next round, and then the next round, and then the next round, and then essentially you're going to play a whole half with a Spectre. And I have seen that in coaching sessions before. Okay, you guys need to fix this and fix it now. I want you to be vocal to your teammates. I want you to suggest, hey guys, we should be saving here, or hey, let's not buy this round, or let's make sure we have enough for next. All very important things to say. That is how you fix this. You cannot force a teammate to not force buy, but you can suggest it to them. Remember what I said. Always try to pose it as a question. Never try to force them to do something. But absolutely, this is a massive problem, especially towards the lower ranks and even at some of the higher ranks where people just think they're aim gods with the sheriff, right? Chill out. Wait for your Vandal buy. Wait for your Phantom buy. Do not force things. It's not worth your time. And guys, that is where we're going to end today's video. Just want to give some quick kind of tips on how I look at players who are Hardstuck, some of the advice that I would want to give them, some of the most common mistakes I see as well. In an effort, hopefully, to give you guys, shed some light on some of the things you might be doing, give you some ideas on kind of how you might be able to move forward. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, comment what you want to see next, and of course, subscribe for more. I'll see you next time. Take it easy and peace.